This is a Channel Africa podcast. You can also get Channel Africa on satellite, PAS10, DSTV audio bouquet 802, and OpenView bouquet, channel 628.
Now, the Eswatini king was once exiled journalist and editor of the Swaziland News, Zwemart Dlamini, charged with terrorism. Dlamini has also been accused of defamation. And to get more into this, we are joined in studio by Zwemart Dlamini. Zweli, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Lulu. Thank you for having me.
Now, we've spoken a number of times with regards to your case and the issues that you are facing, Eswatini, and the issues that are always being brought to the fore. Now, you're currently involved in court in Mpumalanga, that's in South Africa as a province, very close to the Swaziland border, or close to Swaziland. Tell us about this and give us detail as to exactly what's happening and, what you need from people when you bring this to the fore.
Thank you, Lulu. The court case that is before the Mpumalanga court was brought by the Eswatini king and the government after we reported widely about the killing of civilians in Eswatini. You will understand that in Eswatini is first from a political unrest. And after the political unrest and after subsequent efforts by the pro-democracy movement to appeal to the international community to intervene in the case of Eswatini, a group known as the Swaziland International Solidarity Forces emerged, and that group invited us before they started their activities for an interview so that they can inform the Eswatini government that after the killing of civilians by the security forces, as it is alleged, as per an order issued by the king, they will now retaliate, and of course they targeted police officers. Then the Eswatini government and the king, they then came up with accusation that why are we giving a voice to the Swaziland Solidarity Forces, International Solidarity Forces. They interpreted that as promoting terrorism, but I strongly believe some of this legal opinion on this case will be discussed in court. But I can assure you that as the media, we have an obligation to report from both sides of the story.
Now, reporting both sides of the stories, Swaziland News is an online publication, and you are now based here in South Africa. How do you verify the information that you have, or the information that you source from on the ground Eswatini?
Swaziland News is an on-the-ground publication when it comes to information. We have journalists in Swaziland, both those who are known and those who are undercover. We have an investigation unit that is responsible for gathering of information. If you just look at most of our stories are investigative. We verify information, we obtain documents, we obtain evidence before we publish. We also contact the relevant authorities, including the government, before we publish, to make sure that our stories are balanced. And in some instances, if the government opt not to respond because they are used to responding to state-owned media whereby they will spread propaganda, then we will state in the story that they were conducted without any response.
Zweli, just looking at a country like Eswatini, so when you go back to a number of years ago where young people were taken to school by the Swazi government and the king, there was a whole process of young people going through school, and then when they get to varsity level, they whether go to the UK, to the US or South Africa, and later years expected to return home and give back and ensure that whatever it is that they were studying, they would go back home to improve the country. What are we seeing today? Because I know for a fact that a lot of Emaswati are here in South Africa and, doing a lot of work in South Africa, not only in South Africa, they're all over the world. How do we work at getting a country like Eswatini to, economic stability where poverty is eradicated? What are we dealing with? What are we facing?
Thank you, Lulu, for that question. Eswatini is a very, very rich country when it comes to natural resources and when it comes to skilled human resource. As you have just mentioned, some of skilled Emaswat and intelligent Emaswat are here in South Africa. But the political situation is depriving these citizens an opportunity to work and develop their country. You are talking about issues of economy. Issues of economy are determined by political stability. You must make sure that the political system in that country or in Eswatini is stable and democratized so that it enhance even the ease of doing business. And once you work around that, then you will also strengthen the rule of law. By so doing, you are then enhancing the ease of doing business and attract investors. Once you do that, then the skilled human resource in Eswatini will then come back and develop the country. As the situation stands, Lulu, it is very difficult for these Swazis who are in South Africa to go back home because even the issues of salaries, that country is paying low salaries. You find skilled human resource, some earning as little as 1,500 rands. People with degrees, even teachers, and they've started contracting teachers working on 1-year contracts earning around 5,000 or 4,000 rands. These are teachers with degrees. So even the education system, even the health system, nurses and doctors are migrating to countries like the United Kingdom. So what is important in our country, Lulu, is to make sure that we work towards achieving democracy and everything will be stabilized, even social and economic development will be stabilized by a democratic political system.
Now, let's talk about the international community and with regards to, their role in a monarch. Firstly, the King Mswati has been the king since what, 1982, if I'm not mistaken. And in terms of his role and the international community requesting for assistance with regards to bringing stability, democracy, political stability, as you emphasize, what is the international community doing? We've seen, different leaders meeting with King Mswati III on different platforms, whether it's the SADC region or the African Union. But what role is the international community playing in ensuring that Emaswati are, get what they want in terms of, political stability, choices, and things like that? These are the biggest challenges that Emaswati are facing.
Thank you, Lulu. The international community has an obligation to intervene in the case of Eswatini. You will understand that the United Nations have what is known as the Sustainable Development Goals. And those Sustainable Development Goals speaks about issues of access to education, access to health, speaks about issues of human rights, whereby people around the world are expected to live a better life by 2030. But all these SDGs, as outlined by the United Nations, cannot be achieved in an environment where there is no democracy, because democracy, Lulu, is the foundation of everything when it comes to social and economic development. So I will say the international community must intervene in the case of Eswatini. This is a population of 1.2 million people, but this population is part of the world population. Those people in Eswatini have a right to taste democracy and live a happy life. So the international community, African Union, UN, they must just make sure that they facilitate a dialogue in Eswatini. Lulu, it's not like calling for a dialogue is calling for the removal of the king. There are countries that are democratic and there's a king or there's a monarch. Yes. Just to make sure that the monarch is regulated and subject itself to the principles of the rule of law as a constitutional monarch. A constitutional monarch, Lulu, is existing outside the government. People elect their own government and the monarch exists as an institution that is responsible for cultural activities, I will say most of Emaswati are not actually against the removal or the dismantling of the institution of the monarchy. They just want to elect their own government. Some, they love the king, but they want to enjoy human rights with their king, respecting what is rightfully belongs to them.
Has that message been relayed to the monarch, that it is about democracy and empowering the country's people and not dismantling the monarch?
It has been presented several times, Lulu, but you will understand that the king is not taking decisions in most cases alone. He's surrounded by people who will sometimes ill-advise him. These are some of the issues that should be discussed in a dialogue, in a round table, whereby all these proposals, how the monarchy will exist, what will be the role of the monarchy in a democratic dispensation. These are some of the issues that should be forming part of the terms of reference of a peaceful political dialogue. But as I've just mentioned, Lulu, it's not like all the people who are calling for democracy, they hate the monarchy.
Yes.
They like the monarchy. As you see myself, my grandfather was a prince, and of course, it's like I can say I'm part of the monarchy. But I cannot just keep quiet when 1.2 million people are suffering, oppressed by the monarchy. The monarchy must exist, but the people, Lulu, must be allowed to elect their own government and have access to basic services and enjoy human rights.
Zweli, we'll leave it there.
Thank you, Lulu.
That is Zweli Martin Dlamini, who is an exiled journalist and editor of the Swaziland News. He is live in studio here with us in Auckland Park. And thank you to him for coming out and chatting to us on that front.
That podcast was courtesy of Channel Africa, the African Perspective.